Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Monday, the start of another week, and another week when Arsenal are sitting at top of the Premier League table. What a weekend. Just unreal, really, how it all unfolded. Last time I spoke to you was on the video I was doing after the game at the Villa Park on Saturday, doing my player ratings. Pretty much as soon as I finished that video, I headed back into the press room. I walked in just as Nottingham Forest equalised against Manchester City. And obviously they held on for that 1-1 draw. It means Arsenal now sit 2 points clear at the top of the Premier League, with a game in hand. Looking a little bit nicer, isn't it, than it did on Wednesday evening. How quickly things can change in football. Really good weekend for Arsenal. Obviously, Man United winning yesterday pretty comfortably in the end against Leicester, although they were given a lot of problems by Leicester early on in that game, which suggests that Saturday's game could well be difficult for Arsenal at the King Power Stadium. United looking good. I mean, you've got to say United are in this title race. It's not a two-horse title race. There's 3 teams involved in this at the moment. United's still got a little bit to do in terms of catch-up, but they are in it. And when they've got a player like Marcus Rashford in the form that he is in, you absolutely can't rule them out. I think they've got a big trip to Liverpool coming up soon. Manchester United, possibly this weekend. I haven't actually looked, but they've definitely got that trip to Anfield coming up very, very soon. That's going to be a huge game for them. In terms of whether or not you'll really consider them up in it with Arsenal or Manchester City. But it's all very, very exciting. It's been a really good weekend for Arsenal. They managed to get the job done at Villa Park on Saturday, and they did it in such dramatic circumstances, didn't they? I'm still sure a few of you are still watching the highlights right now, watching some of the videos, doing rounds of the celebrations at the end. It felt like a really big thing for Arsenal, not just the win, but the manner of the win, the boost that is going to give them at the really important time, because they were beginning to flag, confidence levels were hit, questions were being asked, and then to turn it around and to win a game the way they did, I think it's going to give them such a massive shot in the arm and a real confidence boost at exactly the right time, just as they needed it. If they can go to Leicester at the weekend, win that game, and then have their game in hand against Everton and win that, then they're going to look in a very good and strong position as we head towards March. So lots to talk about in this video. We'll talk about some comments made from Oleksandr Zinchenko, which really interesting comment. He spoke after the game. So we'll look at some of the stuff like that. And some of those comments were about Bukayo Saka, and that's where I want to start right now. Now, Bukayo Saka got absolutely destroyed at Villa Park by Villa players on Saturday. Well, the maddest thing was that I looked at the end of the game to see how many times he'd been fouled, and I honestly thought it was going to be 8 or 9 times. It was 3. He got 3 free kicks given for all the treatment he received against Aston Villa. He even got booked because he reacted to one of the challenges. Now, this is something we are seeing every single week, and Bukayo Saka was hurt at the weekend. I mean, I was convinced he was going to have to come off. At one point, he could barely put any weight on his ankle. No surprise with the treatment he's getting, and it happens every single week, and it has to be a big, big concern. Now, it's always easy with things like that, and when you hear Arteta spoke about it, and I'll talk about what Zinchenko's had to say about it as well, everyone says, oh, stop being soft, blah, blah, blah. I remember last season it happened away at Villa again, and Steven Gerrard came out after the game because Bukayo had said he needed a bit more protection for the referee, and Gerrard came out with some ridiculously rubbish comments at the time. I can't remember exactly what he said, but I just remember they were just rubbish comments, and that's the kind of thing you deal with when you start saying we need to protect these type of players. And it's not saying give them a free pass by any means, but you've got to protect them a little bit, because they're clearly being targeted every single game, and that is what's happening to Saka. It's so obvious for anyone who watches Arsenal on a weekly basis that he has been absolutely singled out and targeted for fouls, for persistent fouling, and it's going to injure him. He's going to get injured because of it. He's so fortunate that so far to this point he hasn't got a serious injury, because some of the treatment he's got, some of the fouls he has to take week in, week out, 3 or 4 times a game, he's so fortunate he has not been injured yet. But it's coming. There's no doubt it's coming. You can't keep getting away with it, and that's the big, big worry. And that's why Mikel Arteta, Oleksandr Zinchenko, every single Arsenal fan who watches Arsenal play every week knows that he needs to be given more protection. And again, it's not saying give him a free pass, don't let anyone near him by any means, but just stop the persistent and targeted fouling, which is really, really obvious every single time Arsenal go out on the pitch. Again, I can't believe he only got 3 fouls awarded against him at the weekend, because I just felt like there was 9, 10 happening, and so it just shows he's not getting the protection he needs. Now, this is what Mikel had to say after the game. said he was asked, how is Saka, because he looked like he was limping a lot. He said he's fine. He got kicked quite a lot again, but he's going to have to deal with that, not every week, but every 3 days, sometimes in training as well. It's his game. Teams are not stupid and they want to stop him. We need to protect him. When asked, outright, does he need more protection from like referees and things like that? He said, we will discuss that. We'll look at the images again and report it if necessary. Now, when he says there, we need to protect him, Mikel's gone on record before and said that Arsenal need to be a little bit cleverer when they're giving Saka the ball, in terms of don't always pass it to him when he's surrounded by 2 players with his back to goal, where he's basically, you're just asking for him to get absolutely smacked by a defender. You've got to give it to him in better positions where he's not totally surrounded, where he's not just going to get taken out. So I think he's saying there that his own players, his teammates, need to be smarter when they're passing the ball to him. But he's also obviously talking about what other teams do. And Zinchenko went even further than that. He said, Bukayo is an unbelievable player. All the fullbacks from the other teams know that, and they know he's so dangerous, so they try to provoke him, tackle him, and the referee should know this. We can speak about Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar, players like this. The referees need to protect these kind of players. Apart from Bukayo, we have other forward players as well who are so dangerous, and the referees need to be careful. They need to look after them, of course. And it is an absolute duty of the referee to look after these players. Again, it's not to give them a free pass and just let them, blow your whistle every time anyone comes near them. Far from it. It's football. It's a physical game. They're going to get whacked. There's no issue with that. It's the absolute clear targeted persistent fouling. It's not booking a player when he deserves to be booked early on, and that gives him free rein to then go in and do it again because he knows he hasn't got a yellow card. If it's worth a yellow card, book him. Don't let him off. Book him. And that is what you're talking about when it comes to protecting these players. Don't just let players get away with one just because it's early in the game or something like that. If it's worth a yellow card, he needs to be booked, because that's going to stop him doing it again, because he knows he can't afford to do it again because he'll end up getting sent off. And that's the sort of thing that needs to be happening with these games. And that's what you see week in, week out. You see players with 3, 4, 5 fouls and they haven't been booked yet. That's the thing that needs to be sorted out. And that's what you're going to have to do to protect players like Bukayo Saka, because sooner or later something's going to happen. And, this isn't just an Arsenal thing. This is an England thing. This, he's an England superstar. England don't want to lose him for any period of time, and it will happen. And it's not just Saka. There's other players as well. People like Rashford, other teams, they have to deal with it. And I just think there needs to be a little bit more protection for these players. There really does. And it's got to, if it's worth a yellow card, no matter when it's done in a game, get the yellow card out, book him, and that's going to stop the person doing it again. It's going to stop him. If you can't let players foul someone 4 or 5 times before you give them a yellow card, where's the punishment in that? It's the same with time wasting. Look at Emi Martinez at the weekend, how obvious it was, how much time he was clearly wasted. And the referee gave him about 4 warnings before he booked him. He did it to Edison as well against Manchester City. It'll take that booking, because by that time he's already wasted about 3 or 4 minutes earlier by doing it and getting away with it. What's the point in talking to him and warning him? If he does it once, it's time wasting. Book him, and then he's going to stop it doing it again. He's going to not do it again. That's how you stop these sort of things. It's the same with a persistent fouling, and that's what they need to look at, in my opinion. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. Okay, back to Villa Park and that victory and the manner of it. I thought, as I said, it was just such a huge thing in terms of belief, confidence, everything at the right time. Zinchenko was talking about it. He spoke to Simon Collins over at the Standard. I retweeted a story today on it, so go and have a look at that. Si was speaking to him down in the mix zone after the game against Villa. He said, to be honest, the performance in the first half wasn't good enough. I wasn't happy at all, but in the second half we showed our character, and this team has balls. It's about the Premier League as well. It's the strongest league in the world, and these kind of games, the reaction we showed in the second half. I remember at City we were like that also when losing down at half time, but in the second half the response from the team was perfect, and I would call these kind of dramatic games, they are like champions games. I'm not saying anything about the title yet, because there is a lot of games to go and a lot of stuff still to play, but this is the sort of character that you need, the direction we need, and that is the key. And I think that's the important thing here. It wasn't just a win, it was the manner of the win. It was when your confidence is down, it's when everyone's questioning you, when your backs are to the walls, when you're losing at half time. Can you find a way, when you've got no real form, no real confidence, can you find a way to drag yourself back into the game and somehow get the win? And that's exactly what Arsenal did, and that was a really impressive thing at Aston Villa, because the way things were going, the way they were trailing at half time, they twice went behind on the back of 4 games without a win, on the back of the defeat against Manchester City. they could have easily gone into their shell in that second half and just been rolled over, kind of accepted defeat and thought, you know what, this season's spiralling away from us. But they didn't. They found a way to get back in, and they played well in that second half. Really did. When you look at the stats afterwards, I mean, they absolutely deserved to win that game. I think the XG was something like 3 to 0.47 or something. I think they had 20 odd shots to Villa's 5 or 6, and that was all down to the second half performance, the way they turned things around and the way they started to play on the front foot. They pressed high up. It was like the old Arsenal that we've seen from a few games ago. And they deserve an awful lot of credit for it. And it's just, I think it's going to do them the world of good. Obviously, they got another really tricky away game this weekend at Leicester, who are playing well. I thought they played well in the first half from what I saw of the game against United yesterday as well. And had they gone in front in that game, which they easily could have done had it not been for a couple of really good saves from David De Gea, then they could have ended up causing United real problems. So it's not going to be an easy game at all for Arsenal at the weekend. But the fact they've got a whole week now to prepare for it, they've got the confidence back after the win at Villa Park. You just feel a hell of a lot better now going into it than you would have done if they had not managed to get the result against Aston Villa. So it just feels like it was such an important game. Players stepped up when they needed it. You got Zinchenko scoring his first Arsenal goal. Jorginho, although it will go down as an own goal, played such a huge moment. Played really well in the game, but then also, dug out that really special moment at the end with a shot that led to the own goal by Emi Martinez. Martinelli, who's been struggling of late, dropped to the bench, came back on, made a massive impact, got his goal as well. Some really big moments in that second half, which you think could go on to really boost Arsenal over the next 15 games. And on top of that, the fact that they were on the way home and they saw that Manchester City dropped points as well, just totally transformed the mood and the feeling around the place in the space of a couple of days. And that's such a big thing. And if Arsenal can get some, if Thomas Partey can go back, and I'm not sure yet if he's going to be back for the weekend, I'll try and find out more as the week goes on in terms of Thomas Partey possibly returning this weekend. But if he can, then that's going to be a massive bonus. But if he doesn't, then you've got an informed Jorginho who's playing well, who's settled in, who's made a big impact, who could hopefully come in and ensure Arsenal get through that game against Leicester City as well. So really good stuff for Arsenal. A really fantastic weekend. And great to see. And I'm sure you guys feel very, very happy about it as well. Quickly, before I go, just wanted to, a quick hat tip to Nuno Tavares over at Marseille. Scored again last night. It's his 6th goal of the season for Marseille in the league. He's become the first defender. I put this, I wrote this down yesterday. First defender to score 6 goals in a season for Marseille since Daniel Van Buiten in 2002-2003. He scored 8 goals. Obviously, there's a lot of games left for Tavares to add to his 6. Really impressive loan spell for Tavares, doing very, very well there. Going to be interesting to see what happens with him in the summer. It just feels like Arsenal got to sell, absolutely. I mean, they didn't spend too much money on Tavares. I think it was only 7 or 8 million. And you think right now, it's a funny one. It's kind of a Premier League tax type thing. But if Tavares hadn't been an Arsenal player, if he had just gone to Marseille and had this type of season and was a Marseille player, people would be looking at him thinking, God, look at this free scoring left back. He's probably worth £30 million or something. But because he's been at Arsenal, because he's on a Premier League wage and everything like that, it just feels like, Arsenal would never get that sort of money for him. But had he just been a Marseille player, you'd probably have Premier League clubs looking at him and be willing to spend stupid money on him. So the whole Premier League tax might well bring down his value, but I still feel this has been the perfect loan for Arsenal. He's gone there, he's played well, scored goals, really put himself kind of in the headlines. And just, they need to start selling better Arsenal this summer. It just feels to me this is the ideal situation. You've got to feed off this really good loan spell, get it done, get money in for Tavares, make a profit on that sale, move on. And so well done, Nuno Tavares. Great to see him playing so well. But I do think in the long term with him, this just is going to really help Arsenal in terms of bringing some much needed transfer revenue in the summer, because that's what they've got to do. They've got to get better at doing it, and hopefully they can do this summer. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Do have a very good start to the week. And I'll be back tomorrow and the rest of the week as we really build up to that big game at Leicester at the weekend. Have a great day. Speak to you soon.